Welcome to But I Digress, a cocktails and conversation podcast with your hosts, Warren Smith and me, Irish Stewart. Come on in, honey.
And welcome back to another podcast, another edition, another episode of chat that is But I Digress with Irish and myself, Warren. How are you going, Irish?
I am exhausted, Warren, but I am obviously giggly. It's been a long week already, but I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm happy to be talking to you.
Oh, me too. Because you've just, of course, had Halloween. The North American extravaganza that is Halloween. Did it go well?
It did, but remember, it's also my mother's birthday, so we have to take that into account, no matter what's going on. So
it's like, what, pluses and minuses? You've got to balance the checkbook.
Yes, of course, but isn't that life?
I know.
It actually went way better than we thought because we were very pressed for time. My next door neighbor, as you know, and I were building a walkthrough for the first time outside, like a public one, between our yards in our combined areas. And they had been in Vegas. He and his girlfriend had been in Vegas, and they did not get back when they thought because their plane was delayed. So we got about 12 hours later start than we meant to. So as the sun was going down on Halloween and everybody was just starting to come out, we were really just putting the final touches on things. But, sometimes you just have to say, we can do what we can do, and we can't do what we can't do, and nobody knows what we were going to do. Yep. They just know what we did, right? So we were really proud of what we ended up doing, and we got probably, I was estimating, not just on my account, but I think other people were saying too, about 100 people probably went through the actual maze, but we had a lot more in the neighborhood. A lot of people refused to go through it just in general because they thought it sounded scary. But we had an area just for the kids to come that was very whimsical. Isn't
that the whole point? It's not meant to be scary.
But some people are just big scaredy cats no matter what. And that was the fun thing because even though not everything in there was perfect, some of the lighting was too dim in areas and stuff, but because it was our first time and we were running out of time. But what made it really fun is that we had a lot of people that jumped in with their fun masks and things that we knew that came over to help us jump out from behind things and scare people. And we had a really great time. We had screams all night long. One child cried. That was really fun. And I did have a couple of adults that just were like, nope, I'm not going through there. So it was set up to be, my side of the yard had more of a Gothic, like, cemetery feel in the front. Yep. So we built a coffin that stood straight up, even though it was a little bit wonky, just kind of for the fun effect of it. But it had the lid was standing open, but there was no bottom on it, so you'd walk through it like a doorway. And then we hung curtains in there that were like the inside of like funeral curtains, kind of like inside of a coffin or inside of a funeral parlor kind of thing.
Right.
And so we were inviting people to go beyond the veil, basically on my end. So. And then it went through and it turned into, like, we went through an asylum that was broken out. That had been, then a birthday party that had been ravaged by these people that had broken out of the asylum. And then that turned into a carnival thing that came out on the other side in my neighbor's yard. So it was very, very fun.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
I think we're going to probably do more next year if we can do that. So I know I rambled a lot, but I was excited about it.
No. That's fantastic to hear. I have to admit, in where I live, there were some kids walking up and down the street dressed up.
Oh yeah.
Not many, and by the time I get home from work, they're kind of done anyway.
Sure, right.
But as I was driving home, I did see lots of kids dressed up, so that was sort of kind of cool. And my daughter took the kids out trick or treating on Halloween night.
That's great.
But the best thing, as they were walking down the street, they found they've got a black cat which is called Jazzy, right? And they found the cat in someone else's garden when they were walking around trick or treating. So my daughter goes, "Oh God!" So she grabs the cat, right? And so she's walking down. But everyone then thought it was part of Halloween because she's carrying the black cat.
Makes sense.
So everyone's walking up wanting
go
to. So we were talking. We said next year, what you got to do? We came up with the concept of the cheapest ever Halloween outfit costume you can think of, and that is dress normally, put on a blonde wig, carry Jazzy the black cat, rename him Salem for the night, and say that you're Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Right, that would make sense.
And
you
talk
could
about
do that
for the cost of a blonde wig. You know what I mean?
Well, you still have to buy the wig then.
Oh, this is true. This is true. This is true. But,
we had a good time though, and it was fun because my mom, she manned the interior of the house. She had, because she likes to make a lot of food, and so we had people from the neighborhood going in and out of our place here, and it was fun because it brought the community together. There were a lot of people in the neighborhood that come from areas that never celebrate Halloween that came out, went through the maze, and some of them sat in their front yards and handed out candy and just participated, and it was really fun to have everybody out. So now, and I met a lot of new neighbors, which was great. So now we're talking about restarting up the old block parties that they used to have before the pandemic. And there's a lot of new people in the neighborhood now. And we come from so many places that we're talking now about restarting the block parties for introducing people to traditional foods from where you're from, and also getting people to know each other in the area again, because I think you really do have to work to build community. I think it's super important for us to remember that we are all together, and that if we're alone, it's really harder for us to survive. So I think we got to work toward building community, and that's what we're going to try to do. I think that's taking us a while.
Well, Florida's please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always been led to believe it's a very multicultural state of the United States.
Is.
Like there's a lot of different people of a lot of different cultures and backgrounds and nationalities, or origins of nationality anyway. I
think that's happening more everywhere now, though, in America. But but especially in Florida, we do have a big, wide community of people from all over the world. Yeah, for sure.
No, that's fantastic. It is great, and that concept of sort of having the street party where you literally like everybody in Australia. What do they call it? They call it "bring your plate," which basically means everyone is responsible for bringing food. Sort of thing. Yeah, and but what do they call here? It's called BYO. Bring your plate. That means bring your own booze and bring your own food. But you don't drink. But you don't drink your own booze and you don't eat your own food. The idea is you bring it for everyone, and then it all gets everyone has a bit of everything, and that's the idea.
That's kind of the concept too, though, in American culture of tailgating for football games and things like that. That people meet in the parking lots of the stadiums, and sometimes they don't even ever go into the games. They just grill out and make food and share it with other people that are also in the parking lot, which is interesting. Okay, so it's kind of a community thing. So it equates to, in the same way, I think food always brings people together. It really does. It can give you more understanding of others. It can start to open up conversations because, to be honest, my next door neighbors directly next to me, some of them are from Pakistan originally and others from the Saudi Arabian areas. And we talk about, because they're Muslim, when we talked about doing the block party, what I was concerned about was I realized after we tried to share food with them at one point, it wasn't halal. And I didn't understand at the time about halal and what it meant in regards to that. So when I told her that if we were going to do the block party, I wanted to make sure that anything that we made, at least on my end, would at least be, I would purchase properly for it to be halal for them, and I would prepare it properly for them. Or I wouldn't choose something that would require that, and she didn't want me to necessarily do it, but But when I told her that I really wanted everybody to be able to taste everything, we had a conversation about how, she appreciated that. And we just because I really want her to try our food too. And I want to make sure that she's able to do that without it being a problem for her, So I think we all just sometimes have to make some concessions for others when we're working together to learn more about each other. And it's just, we had the nicest conversations recently just in the front yard. So I'm learning so much more about them. And I love that.
Well, I know that when you are in situations of people of different food requirements, whether it be from a cultural perspective, a religious perspective, or even just a personal perspective. It's my viewpoint to it is always fall to the common denominator. So in other words, choose something that everyone is okay with. It reminds me of a really interesting story. I know that when during the 20-year Western Afghan War, right? The Australian troops were notorious apparently for carrying vegetarian rations with them rather than when their field rations, they would, if they could, they would carry vegetarian rations because they knew if they gave them away to the kids, it was never offensive. Because there was nothing in there that was going to breach any religious, so where a lot of the other food packs, it's a bit like, oh, can I give this to the kids? Can I not? And so they were very, very popular. Because if you had those, they were fine.
Sure, but you know what? That takes conscientiousness and forethought to make sure that you're thinking about that in the sense of being honorable to other people in that way and not wanting to be offensive, wanting to be able to have everybody included. So I think that that's an important quality to have. I think it shows empathy when you have forethought like that. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about to think about the rations. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, but
please don't think I was trying to humble brag there.
Oh no,
I'm just
no.
I
But
want to try your food, but I want her to try mine too. So
yeah, but the thing is that you can do well. One of the jokes in Australia is that Vegemite is both halal and also kosher. So and vegetarians and vegan, so everybody can enjoy it.
But gosh, honey, so isn't also spackle? I don't know.
Well, yeah,
no offense.
What was it? Yeah, drywall probably means the same thing.
Gosh.
I know.
But it's an acquired taste, love. That's what it is. And
when you grow up on it,
yes, of course. And what I'm learning now as I'm getting older is that I can acquire taste for things that I used to find really gross, and not that I find that gross. It was just not something I was used to, and it's not something that I'm fond of yet. And I'm not saying I'm going to try it a lot, but I have learned recently to love guacamole, which I never liked before. I liked sliced avocado.
Yep.
But even that, to me, took a while to get to because of the texture. So I needed it with something else that gave it not the squishiness, So
see, we don't do guacamole. Well, we do guacamole if you went to a Mexican restaurant.
Sure.
But
you don't do it.
But we don't really do it outside there. What we do is what they call smashed avo, which is basically it's crushed avocado on Vegemite. So it's a little bit different.
So you're making avocado toast, but with Vegemite.
Yeah, it's basically it's toasted bread with Vegemite, and then basically it's squished avocado.
It's your typical Vegemite toast with you just putting some smashed avocado. Is that it?
Oh yeah, but you generally use a much better bread. Normal Vegemite toast is normally just cheap white bread, you know what I mean? Where if you're doing that, you'd probably get a nice sourdough or something like that. You'd get something much thicker and yeah. No, well, the idea is it becomes more of a meal, and then what you'll generally do is you'll serve that with eggs as well. Mm-hmm. So you'd have avocado, Vegemite, and eggs on some sort of grilled, sort of more expensive or better quality bread, and that's a meal. That's quite common. Smashed avo, Vegemite, and eggs.
I do love a good toast with egg. So even if it has avocado on it. I'm not fond of that yet. Like I said, unless I had sliced. But I did recently learn to like the flavors in guacamole, which surprised me. You know, I guess I had to get the right recipes. Not that I made it, but you know, you go to a restaurant and you try it because somebody else has it, and it's no, oh, this one's good. And so I think I found out what I really liked in it was that there was a lot of oregano in this particular recipe.
Okay.
And it really changed the flavor enough for me to be more fond of it, I guess. But I'm also learning to like coffee. So that's
wow.
because I am not a coffee person.
Yes,
you and
I know.
discussed the fact that I do love tiramisu, right? So coffee flavor, but different. So now I have discovered a local coffee around here that has it's like a salted caramel mocha.
Oh, okay.
And then if you mix that with like the caramel macchiato creamer from Starbucks at least, and I know maybe some others, you know, are probably good, but that's the one I tried with this, and it tastes like a liquid tiramisu hot chocolate.
Okay.
That's what it tastes like.
See,
so I'm starting to become a little bit of a fan of that. So that might lead me into some destruction. I don't know.
Well, we see we don't have creamer in Australia. I don't. No? You'd probably have to go to a specialty shop to try to find it.
Really?
Oh no, because everyone's got its espresso machines. Like everyone makes espresso.
Oh, you're also fancy.
Well, no, it's just. The thing is that Australia before the 1960s was a full-on tea nation. Everyone, a bit like Britain, everybody drank tea, right? Lived on tea. But through the 70s, what happened was the introduction of instant coffee kind of changed Australians, and they started drinking instant coffee. Well, instant coffee tastes like fucking sawdust off the floor. It's horrible. So
it is, but you know, right? So that was for a while in the 70s.
It was what everyone had.
People loved it.
Yeah. And but then what happened was that the take up of that there was a dabble in the 80s. I remember with your drip coffee that you drink in America, that sort of pot coffee that you have, and it
percolated.
Percolated coffee. It never caught on. It never ever caught on here for some reason. And then suddenly the take up of espresso machines, and then. Now, you can't get... Everyone has an espresso machine in their house. Just everyone.
So, then do you drink just espresso then in the small concentrated amounts? Or do you drink it like a latte, adding milk or things to it?
Yeah. Well, because along with your espresso machine, you've also got a milk, foamer.
That's what I'm saying. Do you do like a cappuccino then? Is that...
well, everyone's a bit different, but everyone will do one of the two. Oh, the froth, yes. So I do lattes. I'm a big latte person.
Okay,
that's
good.
my coffee. Yeah. But I've got friends who they're full-on cappuccino, so you've always got to have the chocolate in the house so you can do the cappuccino. But my my mother is a short black espresso. She really likes short black espresso, which is just that tiny amount of quite strong coffee. My father, though, is the weird one. He's developed a love of American coffee. He loves that filter percolated coffee. He's fallen in love with it, and my daughter is disgusted. She goes, "That's not coffee."
Oh no!
She goes, "That's not coffee."
And does she use a French press, or is she just using her espresso machine?
Oh, espresso machine. Yes, espresso machine. But in saying that, there are people still do use. Well, we don't call them French presses in Australia. They're called plungers, but it's the same thing.
Oh, okay. No, all right. Well, I know y'all like to give everything its own.
Oh, got to have its own ridiculous name. I know. But they were very common and very popular through the 90s. But not today, because you can go and buy a plunger, and I don't know, you're going to spend on $50 or something on your plunger. But the thing is that you can go into Myers, or no, don't even that, go into Kmart and buy an espresso machine for $200. So it's like, why?
Kmart's?
Oh yeah, we've got Kmart. So yeah. I fucking love Kmart. I adore Kmart. Oh my
gosh,
it's my guilty.
Closed here.
Oh, it's my guilty pleasure is Kmart. I have to admit,
okay.
Yeah. Because
you
have to remember Kmart though in Australia is not, like the show Superstore, right? It's not our superstores are not like your superstores. They're much smaller. They don't do everything. So you go into Kmart in Australia, it will do clothes, toys, bathroom products, stationery, and that's kind of it. It's not like...
So you mean like Kmart in the 70s here? Yes.
Probably, yes. We haven't. Australia has never developed past the 1970s. That's right.
It's okay. You know what? It's fine for you all. Your government is doing better than we are in most respects. It's fine for you.
Yeah, we had a bit of a hiccup recently. I have to admit.
Yes. You know what? We discussed that you were worried about that, and so did it not turn out well then?
No, what we're talking about for people listening, because we often forget that people are listening when we start talking, is that we had the voice
I was just
referendum.
being cryptic.
We had the voice referendum to change the constitution in Australia, and that was basically to give the Indigenous Australians a permanent voice. Basically, what does that mean? That meant basically a permanent lobby group in Parliament is what it basically meant, right? And so it meant that it forced politicians to listen to Indigenous people rather than, will they, won't they, will they listen? It would have meant that they had no choice. They had to listen because it would have been in the Constitution. Unfortunately, it went down, and did it go down? It was something in the end like a 65-35. So it totally fell apart. The Conservatives can be very, very proud because, of course, they ran the campaign to not allow this. And within 24 hours of the referendum failing, the Conservatives promised that they would have all of these new, better ideas. We don't need this because we've got better ideas. Guess what happened 24 hours later? They broke their promise and said, we're not going to do anything.
Of course they're not going to do anything. It's all talk.
And they still to this day say, oh, it wasn't political. My fucking ass, it wasn't political, And
that's why they use the political route, yeah.
I know. And it was a real shame because as I've heard some people say, here we go again, whole heap of white people telling black people how they should live their lives. And there is a lot of truth to that. The only difference is that the bulk of Australians born in other countries of different cultures and different colours, they voted against this thing. Like, it wasn't purely white versus black. It was almost everyone versus black, which was a real fucking shame. It really was. And I think there was almost this concept that you had Asian Australians that sort of said, well, why should they get special treatment, over me, sort of thing. And it wasn't about that. It's a little bit like they once had this country, it was taken away from them, and they kind of deserve some payback for that. Not payback, compensation for that. We can't.
I think in just allowing somebody to have a seat in Parliament in a way that gives them an opportunity to be heard, I think is really important. And I don't understand why people would vote against that.
I know it was sad. It was sad, but it's look, it's over now. Hopefully,
it is over.
As my daughter said, basically she said, "We're the generation of change. We're the generation that voted yes. You're the generation that voted no." She didn't mean me personally, but she meant that age group.
Yeah, but
and
it's
she
the
goes,
story of what's going on all over.
And she, and she said, "Don't worry, we'll fix it. The problem is it's probably going to take 20 years to get fixed, but we'll fix it."
Because right now we're in the way.
Yeah, well, no, that's exactly right.
Not just us personally again, but...
but, our generation and the generation above
and older
us
generations
are holding this stuff back still,
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
I know. But anyway, apart from that, it's actually sunshine and lollipops. The government's doing great. And of course... The reason why I'm so happy is it's a progressive government. We got rid of the conservative fucking shit show that we had before. In fact, right now, the federal government and every mainland state is progressive. There's only one conservative government left in the country, and that's Tasmania.
You really just make me all the time want to move there more and more. If only everything didn't want to kill me there.
It doesn't all want to. It's such an over-exaggeration. I know. I love it. I remember I was talking to a guy I know who's I won't want to mention names, but it's someone that I know who's from Nigeria. Okay, and anyway, so we're talking. He goes, "Oh yeah." I was always scared everything wants to kill you in Australia. And it's like, you come from fucking Africa. You've got lions and like...
That's funny.
It's like, really?
Oh, my son always was saying everything wanted to kill you in Australia. And I know it was a meme. So, of course, I had to use it because I can't have any original material. Steal it all from the internet.
I mean, we do have our things, but the thing is, if you live in like where I live, it's pretty bloody safe. There's nothing in the water, There's no. I mean, we have snakes, but they're not in the cities or anything, So I mean, it's
like wandering down the street.
Yeah, it's wandering down the street.
That's different than what we have here. We have iguanas falling from trees onto people sometimes, and snakes that are definitely in the city. And sometimes alligators on people's porches. Pythons that eat alligators and alligators that eat pythons.
Oh, God.
And then wild boars and you'd think that these and bears, black bears, a lot of those.
Oh, I didn't know you had those in Florida.
Oh gosh, wow. All over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd think that because you're in a city, that there wouldn't be a lot of these animals around. But see, we keep encroaching on all these nature areas, especially in Florida. And mostly there are only pockets of areas within the center of the state that are actually filled with people. And there's a lot of big areas of wilderness, okay? And parks and little forests and creeks and things like that. Well, animals are going to go where they get pushed to, and so sometimes we end up with bears in wandering down the street. I probably have 30 species of birds that are in my area that include just like big, huge sandhill cranes that look like dinosaurs. And they're just wandering around the backyard. Huge flocks of wild turkeys, different things. So we are just surrounded by nature all the time, and copperheads and water moccasins and all kinds of snakes, and we have scorpions, which are really fun, and a lot of spiders like black widows and brown recluses and things like that, and then also sinkholes that will just the earth will just drop out from underneath you sometimes here. So. Come to Florida, everybody. I
was about to say you're not getting a job for the Florida Tourist Bureau or anything.
I know. It's like, holy shit, that's a terrifying.
The weirdest thing.
Not to mention the political climate now. My God.
Yeah, I've never seen a snake in the city, but I have heard odd stories of it happening. But I've never.
Sounds like a great animated film.
But it's a new Disney movie, Snake in the City. I know, but it's but I've never seen one. I've never known anyone who's ever seen one. But I've heard stories. There are stories of But it depends a bit where you live. If you live up north, that's a little bit different. I know when my daughter lived in Queensland for a little while, they used to get pythons coming into their back garden every now and again. But they were right on the edge. They were right on the edge of the city. Like literally, they were so far into the suburbs, it was almost bushland. It was right on that point. So that's a little bit different. The only weirdest thing I've ever had is there a couple of times I have seen kangaroos actually, and what they do is they come up through the rivers that run through the city, up through the banks, and they get themselves lost and trapped, and they end up in the suburbs, literally hopping down the street. But they can't last very long because kangaroos are quite strange. They can't last on concrete or asphalt or bitumen for very long because their feet just can't deal with it. They cannot deal with concrete. So, but I have seen that a couple of times, but that's about it. But then you get into the outback, there are some nasties, I mean, there's lots of snakes and there's wild boars and camels. Camels is the other thing, wild camels.
I didn't realize there were camels.
Oh, my God, but Australia is swamped with camels. We've got more camels than we know what to do with.
They're kind of delicious, so,
yeah,
no offense to the PETA people out there.
We actually sell huge amounts of camels into the Middle East.
Do you?
We export huge amounts of camel. Yeah, huge amounts of camel.
Respect.
And then you've got water buffalo. They can be pretty nasty. So and then you've got the crocodiles up north because they live in the rivers and the billabongs and all that sort of stuff. As they say, never go into a billabong in up north because there is something nasty inside there. Hence why all of that stuff about the bunyip and that,
Yeah, well, you don't go in the water here in Florida in any natural body of water for sure without being worried and watching constantly for gators or something like that. You can imagine anywhere that it's open where there is water, there will be an alligator in it. And so, and that happens in people's swimming pools and stuff. They will climb chain link fences to get into yards and to either get into pools or to eat somebody's dog. And it happens a lot.
Okay.
So it's pretty fun here. So I think it's funny that we make fun of Australia that way when we live in a place like this. It's like, come on, man.
It's just that that concept. Australia is the country that wants to kill you. Yet, we've got some of the nastiest.
Continent, sir.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Makes me feel a little more intimidated than if it was just a country.
But even when we go back into history, we don't even have any cool dinosaurs in Australia. It's like ours are really mediocre. Yeah, they're not. We don't have.
They're mediocre dinosaurs.
Well, we don't have. We don't have all the velociraptors and the tyrannosauruses and all of that.
But wait. What do you consider a mediocre dinosaur, though? What do you have that you consider?
Well, they're not very big because Australia and Antarctica and all of that was all joined at that sort of time. And I know we're talking about millions upon millions upon millions of years, and the land mass has changed and stuff. But for much of the time of the 150 million years of dinosaurs or something, the Australia was very cold. It was like part of Antarctica and stuff. So the dinosaurs that we got were not these huge, gigantic, or these amazing, Tyrannosauruses or, Allosauruses. We just didn't get any of that sort of stuff. So it was...
you like the alpha dinosaurs. That's what you're lamenting, the lack of alpha dinosaurs.
Yeah, yes. It's like, we
they
want
all had very tiny arms.
We want our Tyrannosaurus Rexes, the ones that are so ashamed because they can't play the piano.
Or masturbate.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you know how my mind is. I'm always causing these.
No. Oh, but it does make me actually want to digress. Masturbation into something. Well, I don't know.
Oh,
anyway,
let's not.
No. It wasn't actually where I was going. It was.
I am very sorry. I apologize.
No. I just wanted to explain how stupid and how much of a bad week I've had this week. I went to the bottle.
And that masturbation you reminded you of?
No. Well. There's a guilty secret.
I hope not, though.
Anyway, no, I went to the bottle today to actually, because I've got a situation at the moment where I'm having a bit of a relapse from COVID. Do you remember when the last time it was like I couldn't have a lot of spicy food and alcohol and things like that. I was having real problems with. Well, I've kind of been hit almost like by this second wave of like, I can't have alcohol again. Like it's kind of like making me feel ill if I try to have...
Maybe it's just your liver,
Well, it could be that. It could be that.
Because mine might do that.
Yeah. And so I seem to be ever since COVID, going through this roller coaster of alcohol comes back, alcohol goes away. Alcohol comes back, alcohol goes away. But the one
sound like
alcohol, the one alcohol I can consistently drink is beer. It doesn't seem to be a problem. So I went to the bottle-o to stock up on some beer. All right. So I went in and I bought a couple of slabs and I brought them back, and then I came home. I opened one up and I went, "Oh, for fuck! Zero alcohol." I bought zero alcohol beer.
You hilarious person.
So it's like, what am I going to do with all of this zero alcohol beer?
Okay. You're going to make some really great fried fish, beer batter.
Oh, it's gonna have to. Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay, I don't know, man.
So it's gonna have to be,
or take it back.
Yep.
Because that's a shame.
I don't think you can take alcohol back. Actually, to be honest.
Well, I don't think it's open. To a store, maybe.
That's true.
Take it back. You would here.
To
exchange, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, you exchange it. So I'm asking for your cash.
Problem is, I'd ripped it open by the time I'd realised. So I really think I'm done with it. But I could just have fish and chips. I suppose for the next, or damper. I wonder if it won't work.
No, listen, you can also do bratwursts in it. Okay.
True.
You can do some brats that way. Okay. So there's a lot of things you can do with non-alcoholic beer that you could do with alcoholic beer, except, enjoy it.
Well, I was thinking about baking my own Australian bread, which is called damper, and because there's only two ingredients in it, it's flour and bread. It's flour and beer, and so I thought, but zero alcohol, you can't do that. There'll be no yeast in it, or I don't know, or will there be yeast in it?
I think there might be. So I don't know. It's just I've never tried to do anything like bread or anything with a non-alcoholic beer, but I would assume that doing because I do like to do my corned beef when I do that in beer first before I put it into the oven and stuff. So I mean, you could do things like that. I know you don't eat a lot of beef there, but do you do an Irish corned beef or pork? You could do
I eat a bit of pork, but yeah, I eat a bit
of
pork.
Pork in it and some sauerkraut.
Oh yeah. I haven't. It's no. I could definitely find. Yeah, there's no doubt I can use it to cook with. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just put it in the bin, and then for a while, and let's wait. You just wait to use it.
Yeah.
Or something.
I think that's probably the best.
And then go buy some real beer. Okay, so.
Well, luckily, all the beer I bought wasn't zero alcohol. It was only half the beer I bought, but still,
My cousin did that once at a party. We all had gone to a house party when I was in my early 20s, and they collected money, obviously, to go buy beer, and they sent my cousin to go buy it, and she went with somebody else, but they came back, and she came back with a bunch of change, and she had a lot of beer and a lot of change. And she said, I got the greatest deal on the beer. And it turned out that she had bought non-alcoholic beer. It was all O'Doul's is what it was. So that's a non-alcoholic beer. She had to take it back because people were just really mad at her. And I didn't drink beer then, and so it didn't matter. But it was pretty funny.
Well, the thing
only because it didn't happen to me.
They mixed it all up together, like the real beer and the alcoholic beer.
Labels.
Well, it does say on the label. I know that.
It does. But you have to read, Warren.
I know. I just sort of went, that looks good. So, dear. So yeah, that was my sort of like end to the week. It was a bit like, oh god. But anyway, worst things happen at sea, as they say.
Yeah, and on land, and in the air.
And on land, yes. Yes.
Well,
yes.
So I know that you had given me some movies listed to watch, but I did get really behind on things this week, so I wasn't able to watch them, which we discussed. But we will definitely watch them. The next one, but. Well, I wanted to mention a movie, but first, go ahead.
Oh, no, just before you say that, I should just say, because obviously the last podcast we did, we had a look at some movies for Halloween and some classic movies. And we sort of thought, look, we might do a few more of them because it was kind of fun. So,
yes.
So we the next one we're going to do is an Italian sci-fi, 1960s Italian, classic. What do you call it? Spaghetti sci-fi.
I called it a spaghetti sci-fi.
No, I think it actually is called spaghetti sci-fi. Actually,
so I just assumed.
No, I think you're right. It is actually called spaghetti sci-fi. So,
pray for me.
Yes. So we're going to have a look at two of those. So that's what we're talking about. So
we did. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to watch them, even though I am very interested in, especially Stargirl, just because it sounds fun. So
I don't want to give anything away, but
I'm not giving anything else away. But
all I can say is it is so Italian. It is just so Italian.
I can't wait.
I'm
looking forward to watching it. But I caught a few minutes of something by accident tonight, right before I came up to talk to you. So I wanted to mention it, and I know it's an odd thing because it's got a very controversial actor in it. But it's from like 1968. It was either 67 or 68. And it is called The Fearless Vampire Hunters.
Right.
And it stars Roman Polanski.
Right, okay.
Okay, so I guess he's still in exile somewhere in hiding overseas.
Where does he live now? France? Is it France?
Oh, for fuck's sake, probably.
Yeah, or Switzerland, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Anywhere he's not going to get extradited for,
Yes, I know. Yeah,
I know. But, I wasn't expecting to see this. I was watching something else and it ended. And just happened to be flipping through the channels and saw this title. And I didn't know what it was. And I just went, what the heck is The Fearless Vampire Hunters? And it was almost over. So I just flipped over to see the vibe of what it was. And, in the 5 minutes of it I watched, it gave me exactly what I was looking for. It is the most interesting gothic vibe that it reminds me of Dark Shadows. Remember that show?
Right, yeah.
Okay, that like a mix with one of the early seasons of Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, is what it reminds me of. And so I don't know anything else about this movie at this point other than the fact that Roman Polanski is a beady-eyed little fuck who's dressed like Lord Fauntleroy in it.
Right.
But it did intrigue me enough to want to watch it. And I wanted to mention it to you before I forgot. Because I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But it's definitely a vampire movie. And it's an 1960s vampire movie. So it's exactly what you're
Wow.
So,
all right. Okay. Well, we'll have to.
That, okay,
We'll have to book that, Mark. Oh, bookmark that.
Yeah,
we'll have to.
Bookmark that.
Yeah, bookmark it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of. I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen a lot of Roman Polanski's work. I remember.
I never really know.
I remember when I was at school, we were actually shown his version of Macbeth, which I think was made in the 1970s, and it is blood upon gore upon blood and more gore, and this was being shown to 14-year-olds. I remember
Rosemary's Baby. I mean,
oh yeah,
and it was Shakespeare then. So, Shakespeare.
I was always stunned that they. I mean, I get the idea they wanted to show us a film version of Macbeth, at school.
Sure.
But Roman Polanski's version of it, I still never. Yeah, I was blown away.
Well, I don't think at that point that he had been accused of what he had done, because from what I understand, when the whole thing happened with the Manson murders and his wife Sharon Tate was murdered and she was pregnant, from what I understand, he was on the set of either Rosemary's Baby or that one you were just mentioning. I'm sorry, my cat just distracted me. Macbeth. So one of the two, and I can't exactly remember which I heard. So he wasn't involved in that at all, and it wasn't until way later, I guess, that stuff with the 13-year-old went down.
Yes,
and he fled. So because he thought he was going to make a plea deal, and then he heard that the judge was going to renege or something like that, and he bailed. So, like at the last minute. So, yeah, he's a real piece of shit, but that doesn't mean I don't want to watch this movie from decades ago that he was in. You know. I watched Rosemary's Baby. Well, I didn't know about it then.
There are like we hear horrible things, about a lot of whether it be directors or actors or whatever, and
people do horrible things.
And it's like, but I can't. I don't know. I'm one of these people. I don't want to sort of ban everything just because someone was in something. It's like,
but if they drug and rape a 13-year-old, I will ban something. Yes, I will.
No. I get that
because that's what he's. Yeah.
No. That's absolutely. I
so
suppose,
that's why I'm a little iffy on the whole thing of watching this, but I still am intrigued enough to put that aside for one time to see it, because I know that was way before any of that shit.
Yeah.
So and I don't excuse him at all.
No.
So I hope they get his ass.
It's like, yes. Well, everyone has got to be answerable to their crimes. A certain orange gentleman, you're going to have to learn that.
Well, especially something, something like what he is also credibly accused of.
Yeah. It's no one is above the law. That it doesn't matter if you're
a lot
rich
of people
or you're
have
famous.
that, but they shouldn't be.
Look, I know, but they shouldn't be. It's the whole idea because someone's rich and famous and they do something horrible, and someone is poor and not known, they go to jail, and the rich famous one walks scot free. It's not right. It should. I know it does. What do they say? Justice is how big is your checkbook. It's not really about what's right or wrong a lot of the time.
And also who you know. So that's a shame.
Yeah.
But burn it to the ground. Yeah. Hey, listen. My cat is really digging at the carpet under my door to try to get in. So can we take a break for just a minute?
We can take a quick break. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then let's come back and talk some more.
All right, we'll be right back.
I need a handler.
And we are back, and I think everyone just heard you needed a handler. But anyway,
I said I needed. I need a handler.
But anyway,
giggle because I realized I said it.
Oh, dearie me, that's all right. Now, what I was going to talk about a little bit is it's a long weekend where I am at the moment because it's Melbourne Cup, the race that stops a nation. And I was really interested to hear if your Kentucky Derby is the same as the Melbourne Cup in America. Because in Australia, everybody stops to listen to this race. Like the whole country stops. Everything stops. Traffic stops. People stop serving in shops. Everyone stops to listen to this race. Because I live in the city where it's held, we have a 4-day weekend, right? Not that Australians do holidays, 4 days, right? Do you do the same thing in America? Is the Kentucky Derby, because that's the big horse race in America, isn't it?
It is, I guess. Well, we have, the Triple Crown. So we have the Preakness and Kentucky Derby and something else. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the other one is. So,
but I just wondered, I'm assuming then it doesn't kind of stop the nation. It's just an event?
Well, it stops some white people. I'll tell you that. It does. Especially white people in Kentucky. Like in the areas around where it is. It is a social kind of thing with probably mostly upper class, probably mostly white people. And when I say upper class, I don't mean that they have class. I mean that they have more wealth, I guess I mean. So probably wealthy white people.
Okay.
I think there is a scattering of others.
Right.
But for the most part, no, it does not stop traffic. People do not pay attention to it like that. Now, I know there's interest in it. They do talk about it on the sports channels. I will be honest because we've discussed this before. My family is Anglo as fuck. My family has been, we have watched it. Not that I intended to, but I was at my parents' house and we watched it. Not my father, but my stepdad and my mom. And then my stepbrother is actually a Kentucky colonel. So yeah, he went at one point. He went to the Kentucky Derby. But I'm going to be honest with you. I find horse racing to be kind of gross in a way because I love to see the horses and they're beautiful. And I do love horseback riding. Like I haven't been in a long time, but I did mention to you that I'm going to be doing that coming up pretty soon for just a little brief thing. But I do kind of have a problem with horse racing in the same way that I had a problem with like greyhound racing and things like that. Like I don't know how I feel about it necessarily, about the animals and the way they might be treated. So I know that they would treat these animals in essence, in concept, very, very well because they're worth so much to them. But I just know that a lot of animals get injured and hurt and stuff running these races. So it does bother me a little bit. But I always got to bring that kind of stuff and bring the room down.
My problem, I mean, well, the way it works here, though, it's a bit like curling during the Winter Olympics. Absolutely nobody knows anything about it, and everyone falls in love with it every time the Winter Olympics are on.
No, and you can't take your eyes off curling. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and the cups are a little bit like that in Australia, because every city has its own cup too. It's just that the Melbourne is the biggest one, but every city stops and has a holiday for their own private cup, right?
But it's always horse racing, is what you're saying? It's horse racing.
It's always horse racing. And my major problem with horse racing is that because I had a bit of an insight into it, simply because my auntie and my cousins are actually horse trainers, so I know a little bit about it.
Sure.
But they treat the animals magnificently. The problem that I have with it is when a horse takes a fall and it's a bit like, get the gun out. That's my problem with it. It's a bit like, if an animal is injured, there's not that concept of we're going to try to recover the animal. It's a bit like,
or to let it,
It becomes a business decision rather than a humanitarian.
Loss,
right? And that's my problem with it. If they weren't being injured, though, they actually are treated really, really well. And horses love to run.
Because it's a commodity for them.
Yeah. So, but it's so that is my that's my only issue. That's one of the reasons why I don't have a major problem with horse racing. I do have a bit of a problem with jumps, what they call jumps, because that is where a lot of horses are injured. But anyway, I don't know a lot about it, to be truthful. So I was meaning more about. I was meaning more about what's actually happening here, because of course over these couple of weeks, everybody where I live now starts wearing designer dresses and suits, and men start wearing hats again. Men are in fedoras and all this sort of stuff because everyone is dressed for the races, right? But it goes on.
Dress up here too, yes.
Yeah, but this goes on for like a couple of weeks, right? And the funny thing happened to me, it was actually today. This is the reason why I bring it up. Is I was out and someone actually walked up to me and they said, "Oh, are you off to the races?" And I was like, "No."
Oh well, you're always dressed very.
And I kind of had to. This is how I normally dress.
Yes, no.
So I was a bit like, what do I say? But
you just say, "Oh, what, this old thing?" That's what you do. That's what you do.
I just said, not today, but anyway, that was probably a pretty stupid remark to make, but anyway, but yeah, I don't know, I just thought it was a bit humorous. It's a little bit like, suddenly
that is funny.
I fit in for 2 weeks in a year, for 2 weeks in a year.
Yeah, sometimes it is hard to dress a little more like that out on the street because people don't expect it. Now, if you're downtown and you're doing business, in the afternoon, people might expect to see you dressed like that. But just on average, a lot of people don't dress up anymore, and we've discussed that.
I know.
But I have a couple big hats, and I like to dress up, but I don't want to dress. I don't want to overdress for an occasion, but I do like to dress for an occasion.
Yes.
So
yes,
I will do that.
Yes.
I did just find my holiday dress this year.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Yes, it's very 50s style, kind of off the shoulder red, and then some ankle boots that are white with the white fur around them and little high heels on them, and they're very cute.
Oh,
so
okay.
The dress has like the off the shoulder wide thing with it's red with little snowflakes on it. So, I do like to put on a show, and I have lots of aprons, so I wear that too, because it's kind of just like for me setting the vibe of that old-fashioned Christmas of where mom was in the kitchen all the time and didn't have to put up with what else was going on in the house. So that's what I'm going for.
Ah.
She looked pretty and she didn't have to listen to your bullshit. Here's some cookies. Shove them in your mouth. I'll be right back. And if I dress like that, then nobody questions it.
Well, talking about like fashion and stuff like that, I actually, I may have found, you know how we've often had this bit of an on and off going conversation about my concept of finding you the perfect watch to wear, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, because
but the problem is anyone can find a perfect watch if you've got a spare 20 grand. You know what I mean? So,
sure, money is no object, of course.
But if you try to move out of that realm, where do you find something which is just so, which says something? And I might have found one, okay? And I bought one myself because, now, obviously, anyone who is Gen X is a swatcher. Like, we all know Swatch. We grew up with Swatch. Now, Swatch has just released, in collaboration with the very famous Swiss brand Bloodpan, who made the very first dive watch, and they've come out with a collaboration, which is a dive watch, which is actually labelled Bloodpan by Swatch, and I bought one, and I actually thought, I reckon this is the watch for Irish. I don't know.
I love a men's watch, right? Men's watch,
but
right?
the thing is, it's not. They're not metal. They call them bioceramic, which is what it means is it's plastic, but it's plastic made from non-petroleum oil. So they use vegetable oil rather than petroleum
like
oil.
a cellulose kind of vibe.
And so as all swatches are, because swatches are that plastic, right? And And I thought it's got the Swatch heritage of Gen X. It's a Blancpain, which is huge horological history, very first dive watch ever made. It's a man's, when I say man's size, you know what I mean by that, because women and men interchange.
Yeah,
but what I mean
don't
is
like those tiny little dainty watches.
Yeah. And I thought, I'll have to send you a photograph of mine, because I think this might, and they're worth, I think in US dollars, about $500. Maybe $400, right? What I mean is they're not $20,000.
Right, sure, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be easy to,
You know? Well, I know in my world, to
me, like it's too much money for me.
But you know what? I know in my world of watches, it's like $400 is cheap.
I know, because
so
that's
weird, isn't it?
That's for you, like that. I mean, and I could wrap my head around doing it if I made so much more money. But I do not. Listen, and I appreciate that you look at me at that to what I consider a more high-end kind of vibe on that. But I don't know that I can buy one, but I will look at it and dream about it. So please do send me a picture. Okay.
I still think your perfect watch, though, in an ideal world, is a Rolex GMT, which is, but it's a Rolex. I think, okay, but it's the watch. It's the watch of both Magnum PI and Pussy Galore from James Bond.
Oh, well, you sold me right there.
I reckon that is your watch, you know what I mean? However, they are worth a small fortune. So
I love, you know what though? I love that you followed that up with, you know what I mean? And like, sure. I feel in my soul, I feel like I do know what you feel. So,
oh dear.
It's been a long week, I told you.
I know.
You have to excuse me. You know how I get. And it's just for the attention. Well, that's all.
Well,
it really is.
We've both had one. I've had a very...
I can feel the blushing from here, and I love it so much. It's my favorite.
I have to admit, I had one of those weeks where just everything that could go wrong went wrong. You know those weeks when you just...
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
You know those weeks. I do.
Yes, I know. So, hence why I am loving this weekend. Absolutely loving this weekend. But I suppose we should just say, because we've kind of hit that hour mark, so it's probably time to wrap up. But I just wanted to say that we will do the Italian sci-fi edition shortly. So
yes, but before we go, I meant to tell people about the trivia thing I asked you last time.
Oh,
so I didn't before. Did you have a thing? But you forgot about it, didn't you?
I forgot about it.
You did. Oh, I'm so offended.
Oh shit, I really did. I forgot all about it.
Oh, that's fine. You just didn't know the answer, and you didn't want to have to look it up. I get you.
I put it this way.
So the reminder is...
Without looking it up, I did not know.
Okay. So the reminder to everybody, just to give a quick before we go, is a 1947 movie that I said that I was sure had been the basis for whoever thought of the movie The Castaway, that it starred Tom Hanks, but that it was not a movie that you would normally equate with being that kind of film, okay? So 1947, and it was a movie that starred, and all of a sudden his name went right out of my head, the guy who played the lead in My Three Sons. He was the father.
Fred McMurray.
Fred McMurray, okay. So
I can't believe I knew that.
You did know, and I'm so impressed.
I cannot believe I knew that, yeah. No, the only reason I know that is I watched the Cane Mutiny the other day.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think we did discuss that. Maybe that made me think of this. I'm not sure.
But they've just remade the Cane Mutiny, I believe.
Oh, I'm sure they have. That's all they do is remake things.
I know.
So 1947, starring Fred McMurray. I can't remember who else at the moment, but it was not a drama in the way that you would think a movie like Castaway would come from something, but it was a comedy. And you still don't know what it is, right?
No.
It is called My Two Husbands. And you got to look it up because it's literally about a woman who is married.
Oh, my God. And she gets remarried and her husband turns up.
To the best friend. Right?
Yes. And
her husband turns up, but he was supposedly lost at sea.
Yes.
But he had actually been trapped on a desert island for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, my
God. And he shows back up completely unexpectedly when they think he's dead. And that's where it starts. They never show him on the island. He's just back all of a sudden. And it's a comedy.
But so you say it's Fred McMurray.
Fred McMurray is in it.
Isn't it Doris Day?
It might have been, but to be honest with you, right now, I can't remember.
I have a sneaking suspicion it's Doris Day, and yes, you're quite right. Her husband is missing, presumed dead, and she
and she remarries the best friend. She marries the best friend because they kind of bond afterwards. But then when the husband shows back up, she's confused about what to do, and that's the story. The conflict is her in this comedic situation with both of these men. And to me, it's hilarious that it's comedic because that poor man, right?
Well, there's another movie, and it was remade. It's a British movie. It was because it was written by Noel Coward, and it was remade recently with Isa Fisher. I know was in it, obviously, because I don't know, got a bit of a thing for Isa Fisher. But anyway, she is in it. But, and also Judi Dench, Dame Judi Dench is in it as well.
Yes.
And in the remake anyway. But the original one and the remake, the whole concept is that there is husband and wife, and the wife dies, the husband gets remarried, and he's a writer, and he's got writer's block. And so they go to see a medium, and the medium is a fake, but somehow or other, when they see the medium, for the first time in her life, she makes contact with the actual spirit world and summons up his ex-wife, who then starts to haunt them in their house. So the ex-wife comes back, but the ex-wife can't stand the new wife because as far as she's concerned, she's married to the husband. Yes, I think that's it.
Okay, Blood Spirit's a play as well then. So, it's I don't know that I've seen the film, but yeah, I've heard it's actually good if that's the case.
It's very funny. It's very funny.
Well, it's definitely something to add to our list then.
Oh, well, yeah, but I would love to see when I say the original movie, not the remake movie, yeah.
Right, absolutely. That's, for sure. I'd like to see the original stuff, for sure.
Well, actually, maybe that would be a great double bill.
Maybe so. You got to write out a list.
I know.
Listen to them now. We're talking about all the stuff we talk about behind the scenes now when you haven't wrapped up.
Well, well, the other thing too is everyone's listening, and if we are going to start to do some more of these, do we want to ask people if there's things they want us to look at?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, go ahead now.
Yeah,
anything you guys want to suggest?
But kind of not the Asylum Sharknadoes and stuff like that. Even if it is B grade, we're talking about the classic B grade, not the.
Just because they suggest something doesn't mean we have to accept it.
Yeah. Don't not three-headed shark attack.
We're not going behind the green door, okay? Yeah. We're not doing that.
Behind the green door, yeah. So I had to think about that for a second. Yes. I still remember. Wasn't it Cannonball Run where Jackie Chan's driving the Toyota and they're watching behind the green door while they're driving the car?
Oh, gosh. I have a story about that, but it's going to have to wait till I get back from vacation.
All right.
Because I have to pack a bag now, so we need to wrap up.
All right, we need to wrap up.
I'm going on a trip tomorrow, so.
All right. No worries. Well, we will talk to you when you get back. And
yes.
So look, that was just another episode of But I Digress. This episode about absolutely nothing, as it often is. It's
and
just
everything.
And everything. It's
and
just
anything.
Two friends having some drinks and having a chat. So anyway, that was really cool. It was great to catch up again. I really enjoyed it.
Always good to talk to you.
Excellent. Thank you. No, I really enjoyed myself, as I always do. Thank you so much, Irish. All right. Well, we will wrap it up then. All right. So cheers, guys, and we'll be back shortly with another podcast.